All right, so it is time to dig in to skill systems. And we have three skills already decided: Intimidate, Persuade, and Bluff. And I would like to talk a little bit before we go too far about talk skills, because I want talking skills to be a little more concrete and defined than they are in like D20 and stuff. Too much of D20 is just conversing with the GM and, saying, well, can't I get extra information because I have this and this and this, and, I want to try to find out this. And if you have a good GM, they'll pay attention to your skills and all that, but there's not a lot of anything to make the GMs do that. I've been really hit and miss in the past with GMs being insane about stuff like that. So some actual guidelines for like, I ask this and roll dice, and now you have to give me information would be kind of nice.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to see is more dice rolling involved in conversations. Just because, like you mentioned, a lot of the time it ends up just being a conversation with your GM, and then they say, okay, roll for blank. But if you're like, I want to incentivize the player to say, I'm going to try to intimidate this character, or I'm going to try and haggle, or I'm going to try and do something, and have that incorporated dice roll feeding off of their skills.
Yeah. Sounds like we're on the same page. How about you, Suda? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. The only thing I'm kind of worried on is like sometimes conversing could be hard, and it's something that happens completely different from player to player in pen and paper games. It's one of those unfortunate things where like even if you have like the highest charisma skill for a character, it can be really difficult for some players to communicate what they actually want. But I think if we kind of build up more of a framework and more of an actual guide to like how you should approach certain things, I think that would help them out quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like, if you're asking a question that you want a specific answer to, you can just roll your dice and like, hey, you know what's coming. There, give me information. The only issue would be players having to understand player versus character knowledge. And that's always an issue. I don't think there's any way around that. You just have to know how to do player versus character knowledge if you're going to RP.
I was going to say that that's sort of just baked into RPing. That's going to always be a problem with RPing. So
yeah,
don't be a jerk. Don't meta.
Yep. Pretty much how I see it. Woo, that's good. Hey, there we go. Okay. My window for all of the audio channels had shrunk a little bit accidentally, and the myself channel was missing, so when I was talking, I wasn't seeing any bars move, and I was like, oh no, am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay.
I did leave the audio for the stream on for a little bit at the beginning of this one, and we are not globally muted. Can confirm.
Yeah. I was actually watching for that one this time. But yeah, I think just being able to roll and get an answer. Like I said, the only problem is if you roll poorly and get an answer, well, I guess you don't really know. It could be good information, it could be bad information. You'll just have to decide if you trust the person or not at that point. Because a low roll could still get you the information. They could just be willing to give it to you.
Yeah, it might not matter. You might not have needed to be charismatic.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's no real guarantee. Like you can't, you know that you got good information if you got good information. But as a person, you're probably going to assume you got good information a lot of the time.
Yeah. Which may or may not be true. And that's sort of up to GM discretion.
Yep. I don't think it ruins a lot of the RP balance. I think it just guarantees a fair response. So I'll tell you one of the things I like to implement when I'm GMing. My target number, my difficulty check, varies based on what the person has asked me, based on how specific it is. So like if they tell me I search the room, like it's going to be a pretty high difficulty if there's a certain item that they really need to find in that room. But if it's a map that they need to find in that room and they say I look for a map, then it's going to be a lot easier for them to find the item they want. That's my mind. That's how I do it. Just so you know,
And-
the next time you're one of my players.
Be specific, damn it.
Yeah, know what you're looking for.
We also need, I think, to include something like that in the guidance for doing conversations in this game system.
I'm glad you like it.
Because both magic and melee combat, well, magic and physical combat, I should say, are very freeform and they require you to be specific as well. So I feel like we can sort of lean on that and include it into any soft skills.
Okay, I'm good with that. Pseudo's not arguing, so I'll assume he agrees.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. So do we want to start with brainstorming skills, or do we want to start by defining how these chat skills are going to work? How you feeling? What's your brain want to do?
I kind of want to dive into the soft skills. That sounds fun.
So like defining more
Game for
skills?
either.
Just brainstorming skills? Is that what you meant by soft skills?
No. The conversational skills.
Okay. Conversation skill rules. You can feel free to jump in there and hack away too. Even though the panel hasn't spammed yet. There you go.
Yay.
Yay.
Away. So
I look forward to my throat feeling better than it is.
yeah, that'll be good.
I also look forward to GTFO later though.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. The way that we've structured physical and magical combat relies a lot on being able to describe precisely what it is you want to do, being able to describe how you want to achieve something rather than I just set out with this goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having conversations work in a very similar fashion may be interesting. So like rank 1 could be something akin to just helps you understand that what they're saying to you is actually information about what you care about. Like, you know, it is in fact relevant. And level 5 could be somewhere in the sort of space of knowing whether or not that information is correct, like being able to intuit whether or not that information that the person gave to you is correct.
So just to be clear, what you're trying to do is fit the CRUD system that we've got into conversation.
Yes, precisely.
So I've got the 5 ranks down. And I will... I'm just going to quickly write down what they are in... Well, I guess magic and melee are pretty different still. I won't bother writing that down, what they are, but it usually was sense, read, update. Before.
Yeah,
That's sort of
was
the-
their setup for magic.
That's kind of the evolutionary path you want to take with the conversation skills.
So for 1, I'm thinking like with intimidate, persuade, bluff, etc. You'd be able to perhaps, because we don't have like an insight thing.
Yep.
Roll at rank 1, you get the ability to roll with that skill to tell if that person would have any meaningful information for you. Like you'd be able to tell, you know, hey, if I intimidate the guard captain, he probably can tell me something about the scheduling of the guards.
It could also be looked at as the level of information you can get from them, too. In an intimidation. Like at point one, you can't get the fine details of the plan, but you can find out they have a plan.
Yeah, yeah. That strays a little closer to the like stat bump system that we were trying to avoid.
So we're kind of in a situation. Are we in a specific situation where there is information? Specific situation. There is information an opponent has that we want. Need to know what an opponent knows in general. Need to get an opponent to do something for us. Throwing down some situations to help the brain juices.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking back at what we have for both magic and physical combat.
Mm-hmm.
So for physical combat, we at rank 1 we allow you to use this ability value as a bonus to your roll.
Yeah, you're able to use the thing.
Yeah. I think that makes sense
Yep.
for soft skills as well.
I think that makes sense for pretty much every skill.
Yeah.
You get 1 point, you can use the skill.
You can do it. You can do it now. Not necessarily good at it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So that would be in, the sort of situation where an opponent has some information that we need. You would be able to do an intimidate roll. You wouldn't be able to make any other inferences from that, but you would be able to do one.
You can attempt to intimidate them.
Yes.
Does knowing how to intimidate also decrease the ability for other people to intimidate you?
Let's put a pin in that one. Come back to it later.
Okay.
So for our magic, we have the ability to read after that as our rank 2. So what would that get us? That would get us maybe the ability to know how effective your intimidate or persuade or bluff was.
I see it from 2 ways. Either how susceptible they will be to it, or are they trying to do it to you?
Maybe both. Because I think that there's a lot of value in being able to know how effective you will be and know when they are doing it.
Yep, I totally agree. Those are both valuable things, and that's why I wanted to bring up the other one. They both kind of feel at that level. Because, yeah, if, maybe intimidate, not so useful. Maybe persuade, not so useful. There are situations where somebody might be trying to persuade you and you don't know about it. But they would definitely be valuable of, is this person persuadable?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or can I intimidate this person? Like that is a very valuable thing to know.
Yeah, but then with bluff, are they bluffing me is valuable.
Extremely powerful.
Yeah. So we've got 4 more spots. Do both of them go into the same level? Do they become their own things?
I would say that those are both sort of your first real bump. Like, rather than just being able to do the thing, you can actually garner useful information with it.
Thank you, spelling correction. Is the target using my skill on me? Does that make sense? Is that clear enough?
Not really. I would say the.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at our blocking. Blocking, we have it so that at level 3, you're able to use it on any number of attacks.
Which means
Your
you've become
ability.
fluent in it.
Yeah. On ranged attacks, you can attack and move. On melee combat, you can attack and move. That doesn't really give us a good analog for conversations.
Well, we could say that to read, it's a one-on-one skill. Because there is a big difference between sitting down one-on-one with a person and convincing them of something, and standing up in front of a room of people and commanding the room.
True. But is that more powerful?
Yes.
Like should it be at 4 instead of 3? I mean.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Is it too powerful for even 3? Yeah, I mean, the ability to command a mob is pretty strong.
I think 3 makes sense to actually start having conversation, because the first 2 are kind of just you're feeling it out. You're just, using social awareness, whereas at 3 you can actually start, using your social skills to manipulate or get further knowledge out of things, or actually start trying to, attempt what it is you want.
So at 3, you can begin to demand information?
I'd say so, or start to influence things. So if you do sense and a read, I'm assuming that all those times it may not give you the full picture, but if you're level 3, you can, there's only so much you can really get by looking at someone, but at 3, I think you can start using things like the ability to pull a bit more information. Like if you want to see if you're able to intimidate them, rather than just doing your initial intimidate roll, you can strike up a small conversation with them to see how they talk to you, right? You could walk up to this like big burly guy and you say, hey, what's going on? And they look and you go, oh, hi. Like, okay, well, my intimidate will probably work better. At first glance, you couldn't really tell, but like you can kind of analyze conversation, I guess, like you can start pulling conversations in, I guess, start controlling them in a way. I'm sure that you can start dominating, a one-on-one conversation with someone and kind of controlling the flow in the narrative.
To me, dominating and controlling means getting specific things you want out of the conversation. Being able to direct the conversation into the information you desire. So the way I would read that is then at 1, like I was saying before, you might find out they have a plan. But at 3, you could find out what their plan is. You could get the details.
What would the implementation of that look like? You just delta 3 them, and now the GM has to give you more information?
Pretty much. You do your quick roll, they do their quick roll. You beat the hell out of them. GM coughs up some information about what's going on.
The way that I was thinking it would be, so if we're searching for specific information, we delta 1 them. We get like some sort of like high level stuff about what we want. We delta 3 them. We get everything they know about that topic.
The specific thing that we've asked for, yeah. How specific do we have to be at that point? How much are we actually able to get out of them? Maybe specific information should be higher? But no, but we're just getting information, because when we start going higher, we're going to start getting into like convincing them to do things.
Yeah, Pseudo's kind of half out of frame.
Wait, I'll drag myself over.
Drift master.
Yeah, too far.
So, I mean, it starts sounding really powerful, but is it really more powerful than our magic system? 5-head.
No, absolutely not. The magic system is ridiculous. But the 4th rank, I think, is a good point for being able to influence crowds. That feels like a level 4 thing. Whereas
apply
level
your
5.
influence to crowds rather than just individuals. And then 5 would be you can influence actions in others. And that's influence, not force. So like, without magic, you're still not going to convince the guy to kill himself. Unless he was already partway there.
Yeah. Or say, you delta 5 a intimidate roll on somebody who is going to attack you. You may be able to intimidate them hard enough that they choose not to.
Yeah, stuff like that. Or convince him to go against his boss or open a door for you into the chamber or, do something like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say something like you can infiltrate and kind of destroy his own ideas and his own thoughts and his own kind of thought process in that sense.
Yeah,
like you said.
Yeah, a level of influence. And then, of course, it'll be up to the GM still, but at least there is a ground rule that, hey, I have had influence. How much influence is up to the GM for what's going to happen? But if you really win your talk roll by that much, you should have influence over this person.
Absolutely.
I'm already happier with this charisma system than any other.
So then we have let's run through our specific situations that we have down below. There is information.
Healthy.
There's information that an opponent has that we want. And I assume the keyword here being specific information. We want one specific piece of information. At a Delta 1, we would be able to attempt it and get some work done.
We get general information.
Yeah, you get general information out of them. If you wanted to really dig down to that specific thing, you would have to do, several turns worth of work in order to get that specific thing.
The way I see it is we're asking, where are you going to attack? And you get a Delta 1, and his response is, yes, we're going to attack. You don't get the plan, but he confirms that they're attacking. You get some information, at least. There is some confirmation, but it's not at the depth that you would want from your Delta 3.
So say, like in the situation that you just described, that seems like, you're trying to get siege plans from somebody.
Sounds fair.
So if you're trying to get siege plans from somebody, sorry about that, then the Delta 1 on your first turn will result in I'm good. Will result in knowing that there is a plan. You already know that they're going to siege the city. So that you basically just get, we're going to do it on such and such a day.
Well, you might not even get such and such a day. You might just get, yes, this is a plan.
Yeah, depending on influence levels. But if you Delta 2 here doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the most useful. But that's okay. They don't all have to be useful in every instance.
And 2 is generally our lull anyway.
Yep.
2 would be, approximately how hard you're going to have to work to get the more detailed information out of him. And I think we can use the work system here as well in order to allow multiple Delta 1s to get there eventually.
To represent longer conversations.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw in an extra skill here right now.
Yeah, interrogate works great. At rank 3, if you Delta 3 them, you can be like, you need to tell me, the the locations of the attacks. That sort of specific thing.
Yeah. What spot are you planning to attack? And you'd get
And
it.
if you delta 3 them, you get it. At delta 4, you would be able to apply your influence to, say, the 3 saboteurs that you had captured and make one roll. And if you get 4, then one of them is going to give up the information. It doesn't matter which one it is, but whoever had that information, whichever one of those 3, or whichever one had the least resistance to your ability, will give it up.
Yeah. And this is why spies are actually specifically trained in counter-interrogation techniques.
Yeah.
Because it is actually hard to resist properly trained and knowledgeable people interrogating you.
And then at delta 5, you may even be able to get him to, like, give you a map.
Hell, Delta 5, you can get him to confess to a crime he didn't even commit.
Which is not necessarily a good thing.
No.
But
happens all the time, though.
You would be able to, he'd draw you a map to be like, look, I just get me out of here. I just want to get out of here. I'll draw you a map. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, maybe even take you to the spot, stuff like that. But it's some sort of an action at that point that you're getting out of him, not just a basic response.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that sound sane to you for the 5 levels, Suda?
Yeah.
I think it applies to all the chat skills that we have too.
And we definitely need to have, like, charm in there as well. Although it could fall under persuade.
I think charm is persuade, yeah. I think they're the same
But
thing.
like we need to know what an opponent knows in general. Delta 1, you'd be able to get that, yeah, they know something about it, not any real detail without doing multiple sets of work. 2, again, not super useful. In specifically this situation, it will be very good defensively. 3, you'd be able to get a more detailed view of what they know in general.
Nope.
They'd give up more details to you. 4, again, groups. 5, they'd draw you a map or show you around the town or what have you.
Hell, if you combine 5 and 3, you can make your own angry mob.
You sure could.
I don't need to.
You can make 2 angry mobs that are angry at each other.
Yep. I mean, I was just thinking,
big old diversion.
You've built this character and you don't have any combat skills. What are you going to do? Make an angry mob and get them to kill my people for me.
Yeah, I'm going to get everybody else to do my fighting.
That seems like a valid approach, which I kind of like, because that's not really a valid approach in any other pen and paper, because the DM will just be like, no, you're not allowed to. Now you just can't. DM just got to work around it.
And I mean, dependent on DM, you're probably still going to run into situations where the DM says, well, no, that would break things. And that's also totally valid. So at that point, like that, you just change your goal a bit.
Yeah, GM discretion is always with everything, but I love the idea of causing an uprising rebellion and pitting all of the peasants against the king's guards so that you can break in the back and rob the treasury. We're writing Ocean's 11 D&D edition here.
I'd play that. And for specific situation number 3, we need to get an opponent to do something for us. You would basically have to Delta 5.
Yep. You would, but it's possible. But it's really not easy to get somebody who doesn't want to do something. So, paired to Delta 5.
So how do we use the work system? Say, like, there's some critical thing and you need an enemy spy to essentially double cross. Is there a amount of work to make up for the fact that you only have level 4 that can get you through.
I do like the idea of being able to interrogate over time and progress in the interrogation, or the intimidation, or the persuasion, or the bluff. Just sell them on it. So we start with an initial delta that we're trying to reach because we have a certain goal we're trying to get. So we need the opponent to do something for us. We're trying to get a delta 5. We roll, they roll. We won, but we only got a delta 3.
And you really need the effect of the delta 5.
So at that point, do you have a choice? You can either go with... No, you have to make your decision and then roll. It's not roll and then decide. So you decide that you're going for the delta 5. You get the delta 3. You don't quite get there. There's no finish to the task. You don't get to just say, okay, well, I'll just take some information then.
We had a suggestion in one of these docs for work. Yeah, it suggested 4 to 5 times your rank for tasks that may take more than one roll. I think 4 to 5, now that we've done more work on our skill system, is probably high.
Yeah,
It should
I agree.
probably be like 3.
That might even be high, but we'll have to get trying and play testing before we do that. Let's just figure out how I think we need something more clear. I think the work system is too loosely applied. It applies sometimes, it doesn't others, and I don't really like that.
It applies on magic. It applies on feats, like doing a crazy thing.
It should definitely apply to skills. All skills. And I mean, the only reason it doesn't work in melee is because somebody else is going to smack you before you finish it if you don't do it that turn.
I think it not applying to melee combat is fine. I think if we refine it a bit more, it can be applied to conversation.
And I want it to be refined more so that it applies to all skills the same, not just conversation skills.
Yeah.
It should apply the same way to a conversation as it does to an engineering problem or a programming problem.
Internal consistency in our game system. I like it.
What happens when you get 3 big brains working on something? Now we just need 3 big brains.
Right. Maybe we should take a look at the work system then? Or do you want to go into other types of skills?
I think we can just brainstorm some skills and mull the idea around in the back of our head as we think of these. Mull the fuck out of it.
So I'm thinking resolve is sort of the antithesis of influence and authority. It is how you defend against intimidation, interrogation, persuasion, bluffing. Charming.
Okay, so it's going to be a different skill to resist it than it is to affect it?
I don't think so. It's just
That gets kind of complicated, actually. Yeah.
yeah, because like the whole thought with how we laid these stats out initially was, you know, we have your physical attributes and then your mental attributes, and they sort of mirror each other.
Yep.
In which we have, you know, strength, precision, fortitude, and appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Is knowledge, wisdom, resolve, and influence.
So what of these go under appeal and what of these go under influence is also something to look at. That might actually be a spot where you're charm goes.
Yeah.
Using physical
And-
appeal rather than persuasion of influence and authority.
I think a lot of these conversational skills could use either stat, and I think that that's fine.
I think that having a single like mental resistance stat that is the counter for all of these isn't a terrible idea.
It does make the system easier to grok rather than rolling intimidate against intimidate.
I agree. And just because you know how to intimidate someone doesn't really mean you're good at not being intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
And you can know how to resist someone's intimidation without being an intimidating asshole.
Yeah.
I think it makes more sense that way. And also it's just a bit cleaner to have that kind of defense. It's the same thing of like, you could be very good at, offensively striking, but not very good at defensively striking. But, very good at blocking, parrying, being on, defensive side of things, but not very good on being on the offensive side of things.
Aikido versus Taekwondo.
Yeah. So what would we call that? Would it just be a skill called like mental fortitude? Or would it be
It's a skill that means mental fortitude.
Yeah.
resilience, mental resilience?
Fortify, or it could just be like focus. You don't get thrown off, your own thoughts. You don't get influence. Like focus could be more of that kind of, fortitude. You're putting effort into what your thoughts are and what's going on in your mental state.
I'm not happy with this word, but confidence kind of says it.
Even if we don't end up using it for this ability, we should 100% have an ability called focus, and it should 100% be under resolve.
It could either be a buff, to make your other things go better, or it could be, just an overall defensive buff.
I'm not super happy with the term mental resilience, but mental resilience is an actual term that means the ability of or life skills of an individual to adapt to hardships, stress, emotional difficulties, and mental health adversities.
It kind of hits the nail on the head. It doesn't roll off the tongue nicely, but
Time to break out the thesaurus. See what's out there.
Resilience thesaurus. Give me a single word that means this.
Composure?
Oh, I like composure.
I like composure. Composure is good. Yeah, I like composure a lot.
Yeah, I think composure hits it. I can't think of anything better. I don't even want to think of anything better. Good word. Good word, Pseudo.
Thank the thesaurus.
Thank you, dinosaur.
So we should also have focus, which should 100% be part of resolve.
Okay, we're going to add a little ability to resist.
Influence.
Influence and appeal skills. Each skill. Like that there's so many different ways you can come at it. Do we really want just one for all of them? Yes. I guess really it makes it easiest with just one ability to resist them.
Having to level different things for
Different resistances to them is a pain in the ass and silly and a waste of skills.
I don't want that. And I think because it's not going to be used in combat, it's okay to have it be one thing rather than having a knowledge ability that defines your resistance to influence.
Yeah. I can resist, intimidate, interrogate, and persuade, but this guy's bluffing me. It gets kind of complicated.
Should have put a level in knowledge.
It does make composure a super strong ability. But
yeah, you definitely want some.
yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
You can always have things that increase your composure that are like temporary buffs that are based off those other skills as well.
Yep.
Or just based off, flat stat things. So it's like not always just, feel like something important enough that you have to spec right into it, but you have to be at least aware of your composure and things that, increase or reduce your composure.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's in a bad place as it is.
If we end up having a rage ability, like something for...
You keep cutting out a little bit. I don't know why.
Do I?
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking is gone again. Oh, player agency, and this effect on player agency.
How so?
Can a player be bluffed to the point where they are given an action they should do?
I hate being crowd controlled, but I know people love crowd control.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And the way I kind of interpret it is, again, PVC knowledge, player versus character knowledge situation where you've lost the role horribly. This person that's bluffing you has given you information. You're basically just being given information and told this is factual and honest, and you believe it entirely. And then you just have to kind of role play from there. It's going to be up to character interaction. Hey, Iron. Welcome. Iron Frost Dips. Yes, we're working on a pen and paper system. A very unique one. It started out as something just ripped off and has turned into, oh, what a beast. So we're talking about chat skills right now. If you've ever played pen and paper games and gotten into a conversation with someone, I'm sure you'll be able to put some input in this.
Yeah, so one of the things that we specifically wanted to address was the fact that there's not a whole lot of creativity in a lot of the systems for certain pen and paper RPGs. Like, in D&D, for instance, you say, I attack with my sword. Okay.
So exciting.
So we wanted to add the ability to go, I'm going to try and slice his leg, or, going to try and knock the weapon out of his hand.
Yes, here we go. There's kind of an idea. But there's 5 levels of each skill, so it's not just a plus in our game. We hate that idea of, I got a skill up, I get a +1. Boring. So we have very few skill points. There's 5 skills, 5 points to a skill. So you're not tracking a lot, but each one gives you a kind of a certain level of influence, a certain level of ability, a certain level of free-form play with it. So like with blocking, we'll use as an example. At 1 rank of block, you can block. At 2 ranks of block, you can not just block the attack, but you can actually prevent any special effects from that attack as well. So let's say you're blocking... The situation you should be thinking of is you've got a wooden shield and some guy's swinging a flaming sword at you. You can block the sword, but there's still fire to deal with, and then your shield's on fire or singed. So now you can block in such a way that you're going to deflect that sword into the ground. And now the fire's not even going to get you. It's an extra description you can give. At 3 points, you can defend multiple attacks in that one action round of yours. If 3 swords are coming at you.
2 guys with flaming swords.
and so on and so on. And we're building up this way. So today we're very focused on speech skills. Because in all the pen and paper I've done in my life, and I've done a lot, when I'm talking to somebody, most of the time it's up to the GM's interpretation of the chat rules, and the information I get out of him isn't about my character's ability to converse, it's about my personal ability to argue with my GM until he gives me the information I want. And that's fine, I've learned to play the game that way, but my character can converse and is good at it. So there should be rules to explain that I can convince people to do things if I'm good enough at conversing. And that's kind of what we've been creating here.
Yeah, and you can see we're trying to be as internally consistent as we can be. We want our systems to work more or less the same way. So at rank 1 of a conversational skill, you can do it. You can intimidate somebody. You can bluff. You can try and succeed at that thing.
Just don't expect to be great at it.
Yeah, just don't expect to be amazing. At rank 2, you can tell how susceptible the target is, or if you're being bluffed or interrogated or intimidated. At rank 3, you can really start to drill down and ask for something specific. At rank 4, you'd be able to apply that ability to, say, a crowd of people. Maybe, you're giving a speech. Maybe you're trying to, save a friend from the hangman's noose, and you're standing up on the gallows and trying to speak to the crowd to get them on your side. That would need rank 4. And then at rank 5, you can directly influence others' actions, which is pretty powerful.
Politicians are at least a persuade 4.
At least.
Yeah. The good ones are persuade 5, for sure. And that actually gives you grounds within the systems to have an understanding of how your conversations should go, how influential your character should be, and what sort of situations you can get yourself into and out of. After we figured that out, you popped in, and we were just kind of coming up with new skills at this point. So brainstorm with us. Throw skills out there. We've got a rigid 8 stat system, 4 mental, 4 physical, that kind of mirror each other. Strength and knowledge, precision and wisdom, fortitude and resolve, appeal and authority. Or influence.
Influence/authority. We
haven't
still haven't
that
really
one named properly yet.
Haven't nailed that one down yet.
It gets the point across. It's fine. And we will be playtesting this when we finish it on stream. Yeah, it should be fun.
We want to get this to the point where hobbyist groups can at very least pick it up, try it out, see if it's any good. If we're lucky, they'll send us some feedback and we can keep refining it.
Yeah. We do plan to open source the system. Swimming? Strength? Is that a strength skill or? More of a fortitude skill, I think.
So it's
I think.
Combination of precision and strength, similar to kind of how running was. Or sprinting.
You could also put them under fortitude with the endurance aspect of them.
How long can they hold their breath? Just the different styles of swimming. Strength, you're just punching the water out of your way. Precision, you know how to move through the water. And fortitude, you just hold your breath and walk.
Punch the water out of your way.
The Valheim approach for fortitude.
Fuck it, they're life mages. They just morph themselves into gills. You're trapped underwater. I grow gills. Oh.
Well, shit.
If you've ever played White Wolf Systems, Iron, we've borrowed their magic system, and the rest of the systems have been molded based on that sort of freeform creativity, because if only one is that freeform and creative, then that's the only one people will want to do.
I'm actually very proud of our physical combat systems. I think it's going to make it a lot more fun to play.
I'm really, really excited for it, and I like how it plays out really well, even if you're doing like a modern military engagement. The rules still work fine. The rules are fine. Oh, swimming. A swimming skill.
Does what it says on the tin.
Where did we end up? Did we end up on precision or fortitude or strength with that?
I think it much like sprinting should be a combination skill.
We don't even have combination skills yet. Do we want combination skills? Do we want that complexity, or do we want to just...
Well, not specifically under a skill, right? Like sprinting isn't a skill. It's just a thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. And how good you are at it is determined by both your strength and your precision.
Swimming is a skill, though.
Really? You want swimming to be a skill?
I guarantee you not everybody can swim.
I mean, it's the same as walking and running. I mean, not everyone can just walk or run until it's taught to them.
Thought about having a penalty for rolling too high for a skill. Conversation, if you roll too high, no one can understand what you're saying. No, because we don't want to penalize somebody for being good. If you roll well, you should benefit, always, rather than being penalized for rolling well.
There's also we use an interesting opposed roll system for our rolls. So say my character was trying to intimidate a NPC. I would roll my intimidate. They would roll their intimidate,
composure.
Which is
composure.
Yeah, their composure. Not their intimidate. We decided that was stupid. I would roll my intimidate. They would roll their composure. And then we would take the delta of the result, like the difference between those two numbers. And if I succeed by a delta of 3, then I'm very successful. I've managed to get at least some basic information. I've figured out how susceptible they are to my intimidation attempt. And then I've got some more detailed information on top of that. And if I delta 5 them, for instance, then I've succeeded. I did it. I even get to influence their actions that they're going to take afterwards.
You do have to define what you're trying to do before you roll. You can't roll and then be like, I delta 5, I'm going to influence. But this is how it is. Like if you're trying to get this person to do something, like draw you a map to their base, then you're going to have to roll a delta 5 on your exchange.
Yeah, for rolling it up, but sometimes stuff like that can be up to DM. Like you can try to, like I said, make someone draw a map to their base, but if they don't know where that is, there's only so much you can do. So you can succeed super well, but if you fail to question if the information they have before demanding for it, then you can do really well, but still have something fail. But
yeah. I mean it's all up to the GM at that. Like personally, if you delta 5 an intimidate on a guy demanding a map to his base and the guy didn't know the way to the base, I would probably make him draw you a map just because he's scared for his life.
You have no idea if that map's any good, but you have a map.
You think it's good because you've got your roll and you convinced him to draw the map. You just didn't know what kind of information he actually had, and now you've got a wild goose chase map to go chase down as a player. That could be a lot of fun. Casting the system costs you in Dex. No, there's never any attribute cost to it. We don't have a cost yet. We do want a cost. But we don't have a cost yet.
Insanely powerful in this system.
But lowering actual stats it's a lot to track. It's a lot of complication. It's a lot of convolution. It plays into all your other stats. I think it would be more headache than worth in a pen and paper system.
Would work great in a video game. But because we have to, physically track these things, either on a character sheet digitally or on an actual piece of paper, it becomes unwieldy very quickly.
Yeah, we don't want to become Shadowrun.
As much as I love Shadowrun from a systems design perspective, that game is not easy to play.
Yeah,
it is not easy to play.
I couldn't believe it got more complicated in the later versions. Like I was like, it's been years. I'm sure they made it easier to play, but no, they made it worse. Man, that's a hard to play game. I know the game and I can't play it. You've seen people try and got confused real quick. Yeah. Like I know that world. I was a player in a Shadowrun campaign for 4 or 5 years with a fantastic GM. Played multiple characters, multiple roles. I still couldn't GM it. It was too much work. And we weren't even doing full rules.
No, we cut out a whole bunch to just be like, okay, that's too complicated. Let's do it this way instead.
I cut out the whole ammo system because every time you take a turn and fire a shot, recording how much ammo you have left now is stupid. This is too much time.
It's not fun.
Just
It's
let
like
us
durability systems. They're just not fun.
just let us
They're just
play the
not.
game. Just let us play the game. You're often one of the easily confused. Yeah, we all are. It's okay.
Womp.
We're all easily confused.
That's my specialty.
So what are your strengths? Well, I'm really good at getting confused.
Sorry, that
And,
question
and then you
confused me.
follow that up.
And then they ask, "What do you mean?" And then I just respond with, "I
Huh?
don't know what you mean. What do you mean by that?" And it just goes in circles.
What?
All right, so let's
Group
actually.
of dots.
Okay. We've got some great ideas flowing. We're slightly off track. I'm going to give a challenge. Let's get one skill in every stat.
Yes, good. This is a good goal. I like goals. So for strength, I think an appropriate skill would be breaching, like the ability to breach a room.
What would it do?
You'd be able to blow down a bulwark, sort of thing. And from
Sounds more
level
like
1,
explosives usage than breaching specifically.
maybe you've got 5 strength and you can kick real hard. I don't know. My thinking would be the first level would be you'd be able to like kick down a residential door. The second level would be like, you're going to know what sort of tools you need to get through that bulwark. For level 3, you'd be able to...
Level 5 is the half-orc kicking the drawbridge down.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Level 3, you'd be able to, say, get through some fortified doors. You'd know, more or less how a door is fortified, and you'd be able to attack its weak points to be able to get through it. Level 4 would be something akin to, say... being able to blast through and then do something in the same action. And level 5 would be something akin to like, there is no door that can stop you. Like you may have to do
Or
multiple rolls to get through it, but if you delta 5, you're going through that door.
I've also added a CRUD's layout for knowledge skills now, so that we can figure out how they're going to work.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have.
Spelled knowledge wrong.
You didn't have enough knowledge.
Rip. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. Let's go with more basic skills first.
I just think breaching would be hilarious.
It
That came to
is-
me,
it
like,
abs-
halfway through our
It
our
absolutely is
conversation.
hilarious, and it would apply really well to like modern military engagements and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the classic engineering?
I feel like that would be great under precision.
I was thinking of it more as a knowledge skill.
You need the knowledge to be able to do it, but you need the precision to be able to apply it.
I think of the engineer as the guy making the blueprints.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You get the guy with the strength to hit the hammer.
Yep.
Tell him where to hit it.
Make sure he has enough precision or don't hold the nail for him.
or maybe both, depending on how much strength he has. The so yeah. How would engineering fitting into a modern setting or a futuristic setting? Fairly straightforward. Engineering fitting into a historical setting or a fantasy setting. How are you seeing that?
Well, this is kind of where I'm going with this. Do we just have it engineering, or do we have an engineering sub-skill? I think we have a sub-skill for it. Like a subcategory.
I think it just depends on what we want them to be able to do, because engineering, of course, is vague. That just means you build things. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, what do we want
So
them to be able to
there's
build?
like a bracket choice at the end kind of idea. You know.
But like, do we want to have it too open where there's like, support for everything, or do we want to just be able to restrict it to like engineering is, building, offensive or defensive structures, or you're building weapons, or you're, building stuff that's even just like ladders, or like how restrictive you want to put it.
I don't really think we need to be restrictive. Just make sure that they know that they need to choose a specific area of engineering. D&D does it that way as well, and it works quite well. There's a language skill, and there's only one language skill listed, but you have to take it multiple times for every language you want to be able to be knowledgeable about. So, maybe, going to the future aspect, my character is a chemical engineer. I take engineering and I choose chemicals.
Which is not the same as somebody who is a software engineer who writes, a spike to get into the enemy's system, sort of thing.
Yeah. Or a, what are they called? I guess you could even call it a mechanical engineer, to be designing like siege weapons in historic setting to build a catapult to take down a wall or something.
Yeah, my main concern was just like, how much of that are we going to want to define and implement versus just, are we going to just try to implement everything we can, or like what kind of, of those subclasses are we going to want? Do we want just to have a few of them, or do we want just to be able to have, a lot of them that we're going to have to add to the book? All that kind of stuff. It's going to be, it's something we'll have to be careful with. I think
I'm okay with leaving it
engineering is too vague.
Open to people to be creative with and choose the skills they want, however they want, and then it's up to a GM to go, no.
That doesn't make sense, or what have you. However, like a chemical engineer could be an apothecary in a historical setting. A mechanical engineer, they still make stuff. It's just less complicated stuff. Software engineer doesn't really make sense, so that would probably get vetoed for that setting.
Yeah, and this is why we don't want to. We want to make it as basic as. So let's maybe look at the 5 cruds before we continue then. For knowledge skills, and it might end up being that all of a sudden, once we have these 5 figured out, we can just go, here's a knowledge skill, here's a knowledge skill, here's a knowledge skill, and it should just fall into these 5 points. So it's already defined by them. So again, at 1, you can do the thing. It's always our 1.
At level 2, you would be able to communicate your plan to others, perhaps? Like be able to draw blueprints, be able to get the gist of a complicated design over to the person who needs to actually physically make the thing?
Maybe the ability to find errors or mistakes in a plan, blueprint, design.
Don't really like that. And like two is our lull, but that is way too situational. Like how often in a typical campaign, for argument's sake, a fantasy campaign, do you find blueprints for something and need to interpret them?
No, I mean, be able to find a mistake in them. I mean, maybe you made it and you misrolled and you fucked up, and can you find that fuck up? I
don't see it, honestly.
I'm not married to it. That's why I haven't written anything down. I'm just juicing the ideas.
And like, typically level 2 is read, but we don't have to strictly stick to that. We have the combat rules, which are very much not read.
Yes. They just follow a very similar power
Scaling.
Yeah, but I would like it to be as similar to the conversation skills as possible, since they're all skills.
So 2 in conversation is how susceptible will they be, or is the target using the skill on me? In melee combat, it's using non-standard parts of the weapon. In range combat, it's using special ammunition. In defensive abilities, it's removing all effects. Do we want to say that level 2 is being able to come up with your own idea?
Or maybe being able to determine how effective something will be before it's built.
Yes, I like that.
Whereas one to we can build this thing, let's build it. And then you're like, oh, that was useless.
Well, that didn't work at all. Shit. Yeah, I like that as a level 2.
Can we think of an example of just 1 and 2 being used without the other ones? I think I'm having trouble determining when those would be used.
So if somebody proposes a plan that involves some sort of mechanism, if you have engineering 2 and you delta 2 the check, then you would be able to say, nope, that won't work. Straight up, I've thought through the mechanics of it. That's not going to actually have the effect that you want.
Yeah, because for that example, like even if you said sure it's going to work, like how would it get built?
But then you have to build it. That's a separate
like
role, a separate check. This is more just an ability to check before you go about the building if the building will be worth it.
Yeah, but my thing from it is that, like, what's the point of that if the person who's going to build it, if you could only do 2, the person who's going to build it would be higher skill anyway, so it seems like that would never really happen.
You can build it at 1. You can do the thing.
Yeah, you can start working on it. You can start doing work on the task.
And that just determines how... I'm not sure if it's maybe useful, but maybe also just like the effectiveness or like the quality of what something is going to be, because useful might be a bit too contextually vague for something for the DM to kind of determine.
Effective is
especially
a better term.
Yeah. Because like it could be great, but maybe if you don't have a high engineering skill, they could say like, 1, you're on the top of the Dunning-Kruger curve, like, yeah, let's do it, fuck it, sounds cool. And like 2, you're like, I don't know if I'll be able to really, make it as big as good as we can or as fast as we can kind of idea. But if it makes sense that they can do it, then I guess they have more of that self-awareness to the project, or they can say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that, or okay, actually it wouldn't work because of this and this limitation. So I think useful or effective, and that's where I was kind of confused of like.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from on the useful part. Are you okay with it saying effective?
Yeah, I think effective is fine, and then like that can just be up to DM interpretation or like quality or stuff like that. But I think the first one, I think it makes sense for them just to be able to do it. And like I said, that Dunning-Kruger effective, like they don't know their limitations. They're new to this skill, and they're just gonna to do it too. Is like we've made some mistakes, and you can identify them now at least.
Like all those people out there who learned how to do basic programming and then went, I'm gonna make a game.
No. I'm gonna make an MMO. That's the first thing. Anyone can make a game. It's fine. You can do a bit of programming in a game. I'm gonna make an MMO, or I'm gonna make the next.
I'm gonna make the next WoW.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that, or I'm gonna make the next.
There was a
Fortnite.
There was an MMO framework that you could purchase on Steam to plug into, I can't remember which game engine it was. I think it was Unreal or Unity or something like that. It plugged in and it was there to like help you architect an MMO ground up as a big expensive package. And there was one review of it going, I bought this and all it is like a database and a bunch of stuff. What is all this? I'm like, yep, sounds right.
Peak Dunning-Kruger. So for level 3, we've got multiple targets for both. We've got multiple targets on defensive, and we've got do it more than once, or do it to more than one target Oh no, that's level 4 on conversation. Level 3 on ranged attack, we've got ability to attack and move. Melee combat, ability to attack and move.
Maybe
We
we
don't
need
really
to
have a guideline for 3.
I think we need to think about the complexity of these tasks as well. Now that we're getting into knowledge skills, the complexity of the task is going to be much more important as it gets more complex, because you will need to have a higher skill level in order to attempt it.
Or to get it done in a meaningful number of time. I see complexity measured in work.
Okay.
The more complex a task is, the more work you have to do to complete it.
That's fair. I mean, somebody who's new at software programming could eventually write an MMO. It would just take a long time.
Probably wouldn't be very good either, but
So do we need a quality? How do we determine quality?
same way a D&D DM does, like how they determine challenge rating. You figure out what would be appropriate for for that character to attempt. Like we have our guideline of 4 to 5 points of work per skill rank, which is currently, I think, still very high. Because most of the time you're going to be like delta 1 to 3ing things.
Mm-hmm. We'll come back. We'll figure it out eventually. Or we'll just play it, see how it plays.
Well, I mean, that's caught by eventually, I think. But at rank 3 of something like a knowledge skill, what do we think would be appropriate there? So for engineering, I'm thinking like
This is where 3 is where you're starting to get fluent. So a more complex machine should be easy.
yeah, and you're getting that level 3. You're getting that +3 bonus to your role because you've got the rank 3, and that's what rank 1 allows you to have. So in addition to that, like we don't necessarily want to stop a player from trying to build a siege machine with level 1 engineering. But we need a way to speed that process up at level 3. Other than just the flat bonus that you're getting for being rank 3 now.
Or allow them to do some other flair with their machine. I was kind of thinking like maybe at the beginning it's because we're in an engineering context, it has to apply to all contexts, I realized, but it was like maybe a simple machine at the beginning, it can do an thing, whereas later on it could be multiple things. Depending on the action, if it's individual, make the person roll for quality, or if someone else having the person receiving roll the person's quality. Then you're getting into a situation where your dice are changing depending on your situation, and the players are going to be constantly, okay, if I'm here, I have to do this. If I'm there, I have to do that. And here, it's going to be this, and I have to ignore that rule. That's why I want to keep it very, that's why our magic and our melee follow the exact same rules, even though they're totally different things. Once you know the rule set, you can just play it.
And we want to try to apply that same sort of system to our skills as well. So that's why we're thinking so hard on this, because we want it to be a system where once you learn the general idea of how things work, you can play pretty much anything in the game.
Which is possible, but super not easy to do.
Truth.
Turns out it takes a lot of thinkering.
So I'm thinking level 5 of a knowledge skill. So let's put our end goal. What should the level 5 knowledge skill be?
Set our limits. Okay, I am all for this. At that point, complexity isn't an issue anymore. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take you to do it.
Which is still captured by the work system, and if you're Delta 5ing things, then you're going to get that task done in no time.
Mm-hmm. Like you like Delta Ford RageBot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. 'Cause that's supposed to be like mastery, like master level of knowledge of something. I think maybe I'm trying to think of what people typically do when they hit the master level of knowledge in something, and the first thing that comes to my mind is teach, but that doesn't really work well in our system unless it's supposed to be
quit and go do something else.
This is supposed to be like for the example of engineering, you would be able to efficiently and effectively provide temporary knowledge to the people around you to speed up projects. Like, you know it so well that you can basically have everyone, just being around you, they'll gain a little bit of that skill. So that if you're trying to build something, everyone just becomes a lot more effective at it. It turns like a 2-day project into like a 5-hour project.
Question marks there? Seems like an interesting idea for 3.
I feel like that's a 5. Like if you're...
That's where you've gained fluency with it. You're fluent enough to be able to work with others and distribute tasks.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then 5, you give everybody else who assists you like a 3.
Yeah. Then it's only good if you're like working with a group and teaching people.
How often would you be using a knowledge skill that doesn't involve others? Like, if you've got what big task do you have a knowledge skill for that wouldn't be better tackled as a team?
Let's go cyberpunk for this one and say writing black ice.
Sure, you've got black ice. You're writing black ice. What if you had a couple other people helping you write black ice?
Oh, I'm sure it would go
much faster.
But that doesn't mean that I need other people to get it done faster when I'm at 5. I should still be able to do it faster than... I guess there's still just the basic plus to
and you do, because you get +5.
I'm going to take the question marks off of here, because I think I really like that one there. We'll have to determine what a combination of skill looks like. Maybe everybody's delta added together.
Or take everybody's bonus without affecting everybody's bonus. So like if you had a group of people, 4 people, 2 of which don't have any software engineering leveled at all, and 1 other person has a 1, you get an additional +1.
Yeah, as in the person who's leading the team, which is probably the person with the highest skill, makes the roll and gets the bonus from everybody under him.
And it doesn't give you levels. Like, you wouldn't then be able to get the effect of a Delta 4. If you Delta 4 something, you would still just get the effect of the Delta 3. But
if you only have 3,
bonus.
Yeah, but you would get the 4 work done.
Yeah.
I'm good with this. That all sounds sane.
And then at level 5, I still really like the idea of giving others the bonus. So like that way you would gain, 4 people's worth of level 3 bonus to your roll.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make the work go extremely fast.
Are all knowledge... See, I guess all knowledge skills are really things that can be distributed as work. And it kind of makes sense, because this way players never really need to go 5 in a knowledge skill, unless they're in like a special spot, like a teacher or somebody who runs a department of an R&D or something like that. And it makes that 5 point valuable. Makes that person stand out in
You
the
would
field.
really want one level 5 knowledge skill on your team.
If you have a big task you want to do, or hire somebody to do it, or, you know, and big companies would definitely have some people of those skill levels leading their teams and organizing things. And this is sounding pretty analogous to how you would really want things to be configured and set up.
The only question is level 3 too much? Because that's in a group of 5 people, that's plus 12. Plus 14, not plus 12.
That's big chunk of work that you can get done in a short amount of time. So I put it down, but I have needs playtest on it. Can combine skills with others and give them a plus. I didn't give it a value.
Yeah.
So where are we at between them?
So we've got our ability to combine bonuses,
Mm-hmm.
pre-existing bonuses, and our next step is giving everybody a bigger bonus that you can combine.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want this to be like the grouchy programmer hermit level, where you just get something that's better for you rather than working on a team?
I think so.
Because that way level 4 will be very valuable to a solo player.
Yeah.
Whereas level 5 is very valuable to a team player.
Yeah. And I like that, because it does take more skill to work in a team and manage a team than it does to just sit there and do it yourself.
So at level 4 of a knowledge skill, let's say mechanical engineering, because
We've been using it a lot.
we should probably circle back to that one.
Yeah.
What would that look like? We can, in our conversation skills, we have the ability to apply your influence to crowds, which is kind of our level 5 in knowledge skills. In defense, in melee defense, or physical defense, I should say, we have the ability to decide where you end up after a thing. Doesn't really map. We've got being able to attack multiple targets in a swing with melee. We've got being able to use ballistic and indirect trajectories for ranged attacks. And with magic, we've got the ability to create field of magic.
Yeah, magic is great.
Do we want to take sort of a leaf out of Magic's book and be able to create a thing that has never existed before? Have novel ideas.
I like this idea.
So you would be able to create, say, some sort of device that you have a goal,
They exist.
but you don't know.
You can do things that do not yet exist. Kind of like that.
Yeah, like you would be able to, at level 1, you would be able to follow, say somebody told you about an idea and you could go, yeah, I think I can put that together. Whereas level 4, you would be able to, effectively do magic, except with that knowledge field. You'd be able to just create a thing that does something with constraints in place from the GM. That
yeah, I like it, because it also does where at 3 you can lead a team to make something that exists, but at 5 you could lead a team to make a new thing.
Yeah, and you'd be able to share that vision of the new thing.
This sounds like a sane power curve. And this structure allows us to just say engineering choice, because that now applies to pretty much anything you can plug in there.
So what other things would be a knowledge skill then? Wisdom, perhaps bringing in Arcana or Divinity. You'd be able to learn a new miracle at 1. You'd be able to know more about what miracles are being used and how they're going to affect things at 2. At 3, you'd be able to join together with others to make your miracles more powerful. At 4, you'd be able to do things that do not yet exist. You'd be able to make your own. And then at level 5, you'd be able to use a huge group and just demolish something with divine power.
Wait, what's the final verdict on it?
That's what I was asking you. So like a wisdom knowledge skill, for instance, or well, not necessarily a wisdom knowledge skill. If we're having this work for all knowledge skills, like knowledge of the arcane or knowledge of divinity, like would that work? Would you be able to be somebody who has studied scripture their whole lives and in this fantasy setting gain more power through your god for it?
I think it would just be more like, if you're trying to, the knowledge scripture thing that you're looking at, I see it as a strictly knowledge, informational intake, understanding things. So it would be more like taking a team of people to translate and decipher an arcane ritual or an arcane artifact or something like that.
Okay, so this is not things that would necessarily directly affect gameplay, but it's things that would be able to guide where your gameplay goes.
Yeah. Which is still super valuable. Super valuable. We could even just call that knowledge choice. Fingers! Thank you. They ain't fingin' right.
So you would be able to choose your field of knowledge. You'd be able to choose your field of engineering. And I think maybe the word knowledge needs to be changed since it's under wisdom.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted by seeing through Pseudo's face.
Yes, sir. Bright-ass monitors are a problem.
Do we want to call it knowledge?
Because we've got the stat knowledge already.
Yes, that's a big no-no.
Yeah, end of year awards are coming.
They are indeed. I was just realizing that, like, oh shit, that's only like a couple weeks away now. We better figure out our topics. We do a yearly game award. If you're still here, Iron. We all talk about the bests of the best that came out this year at the end of every year.
So study, a field of study.
I like that. Or information.
Too close to knowledge, I think.
Yeah, I think study is a good one because it's really studying something. So study, you can study something that does exist.
You can
determine if it's worth studying.
You can determine whether or not that is the thing that you need to study to get the information that you need to know. You can study in a group to make it more effective. You can draw inference from your studies in order to posit new information. You would be able to say, based on my knowledge of biology, that dragon probably needs to be able to generate so much amount of lift. So if we do get on its back, it can totally carry us.
This isn't the smoothest of points right now.
No. Works great for specifically under knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to move study to knowledge, I think that do things that do not exist yet, you would be able to create new theories. You can you could draw up a blueprint for a new design to give to an engineer to be able to actually like make it into a real thing.
Well, that is the engineering. The engineering is the blueprinting. The design of the item. The engineers design it.
Yeah. That stage doesn't really work super well for study. So maybe study stays under wisdom and it gets a different set of, like a slightly different set of cards.
Let's change this from knowledge to information. Because there's a knowledge stat. And this is still an information skill. Like, I know there's a way to make this smooth without having redundant rule sets for the CRUDs.
And it's really level 4 that's the problem.
Yeah. And the only problem. And we weren't super happy with 4. In fact, we had everything but 4 originally. That just means 4 wasn't a great fit.
And no worries with the interruptions, Nariel.
Yeah.
You are perfectly welcome to be excited.
If we didn't
forgot.
If we didn't want interruptions, we wouldn't do this online. And we're here to interact with you all, not just to do this. This is just to make it interesting for you all. Yeah.
I'm not super unhappy with 4, honestly.
I'm not super unhappy with it. It just doesn't fit right now.
But with study, you would be able to draw conclusions from what you have studied in order to generate new theories. Like if you studied magic, for instance, and somebody wanted you to create them a new spell, you would be able to do that through level 4. If somebody wanted you to find a way to combine 2 different fields of magic, you would be able to do that with level 4.
So is it, in the study example, is it 1, you can study something that has, it's known about, has obvious avenues of information, and 4, you can study and gain knowledge about something that is indirectly written about or not directly known about? So like at 1, so you could research. At 1? Let me give an example.
At 1, you go to the library. At 4, you're able to intuit things about that thing, whatever your field of study is, just by, seeing it, by doing your own research.
At 1, you can go to the library and come back with information about Balder. At 2, you can go to the library and come back with information about Nyarlathotep. Or 4, you can come back with information about Nyarlathotep.
Yeah.
Where there's a book called Balder in the library, and there's no book called Nyarlathotep.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at with it.
I think it works. It's not like I'm not super excited about it. I still think 3 and 5 are the big excitement levels. And I think that's fine.
It's pretty important still, considering what the group is going to be doing a lot of the time. If your group is, chasing down something that nobody's ever seen before and you need to get more information about it, you're going to need to find somebody who can get information about that topic and knows what the fuck they're doing about it.
And like I see like level 1 study of, say, plants. You're a horticulturist. If somebody asks you a question about a plant and it's somewhere that you've been and somewhere that you've spent some time, you can probably answer questions about that plant. At level 4, you would be able to answer questions about a plant in an area you've never been to based on just stuff that you know about the area, stuff that you know about, that genus of plants.
This makes sense to me. The ability to infer. Indirect study. I think that works. I think it applies still, yeah.
Again, not super exciting. 3 and 5 are big levels, but 4 is also significant.
I think it's essential. I mean, 3 sounds great and all, being able to study with others, but if you can only study about stuff that's already known, that's a hindrance. Especially when we're talking about a D&D campaign, where I don't know about other GMs, but there's always at least something the players have never seen in my campaign.
But sometimes there's somebody who has seen that thing, and you would be able to go study that person, like learn from them about it.
Yep.
At level 1 through 3, but at level 4, you would be able to gather that information yourself, and you wouldn't necessarily need to go find,
a person and bluff, persuade, interrogate, intimidate, charm them in order to give you the information.
You don't have to go find Georg the Lich to learn about this new zombie.
Yeah. Is that copacetic with you, Pseudo?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a knowledge and a wisdom.
Breaching is hilarious, but I don't think actually a good foundational skill.
Definitely something we can look at getting into, and once we have the physical skill, do we have Crud's conversation, information, and physical? Is there a physical skill aside from the information skill? I don't think having the 3 categories is bad because they are pretty distinct and easy to read.
Yeah, and precision and strength are honestly not that different. Not that different.
Conversation, Cruds, knowledge, or information Cruds, and physical Cruds.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be right back. My bladder is going to explode.
Oh, that sounds negative. I'm going to put this code in so my dinner gets here. Eight, 5. Yeah, okay, cool. I've got food. All right, now we have to do another Cruds.
Oh, crud.
I know. So once again, you can do the thing. Our number 1 is always the initial ability. And we need to figure out what our limit for physical skills is. Swimming. Jumping. If they're even becoming skills. Jumping, maybe not. though you can be specifically trained to jump. And it does a lot, actually. Have to bounce, have stuff to do. We'll check stream out again. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out, Iron. It's been a pleasure. Hope to see you again. Have yourself a fantastic Saturday. Ability to determine if the thing will be effective. That's gonna have to get thrown out. It's gonna change a lot. Wow, physical really changes it up, doesn't it?
Okay, what'd I miss?
You missed me going, huh, physical really changes things.
Yeah, it does. So this is more about like actually accomplishing a physical thing like this. If you had a physical feat that you needed to do, you would use one of these skills to do it.
Let's use an example of tumbling. That seems like a core base physical skill.
Yep, it'll be appropriate for just about anybody who's going to be physically active, requires precision. Makes sense.
And I trained with a tumbling master. He was interesting to watch.
Yeah, the the couple years of judo that I did, learned a lot. Learned how to fall over without hurting yourself. Very important skill to have.
Yeah, the grandmaster that I trained under actually also trained a group of, not a group, but a couple of cheerleaders that came to his classes in break falls and stuff like that. And they came back to him and said that
they really need to know how.
Yeah, they'd actually saved her big time. She fell from a pyramid and was able to roll properly and not hurt herself when she hit the ground. Super valuable skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget some person saying, "Oh, can we stop now? It's starting to hurt." And him saying, "You're doing it wrong if it's starting to hurt." And them going, "No, it's just starting to hurt." And he dragged
Then you're doing it wrong.
So he dragged the whole class outside and jumped off of a 6-foot drop onto concrete and just rolled and got up and went, "Get in there. Keep doing it." No one ever argued with him about it again.
So let's take that example and let's look at what we've got as a baseline for other things for level 2. We've got removing the effects from an attack on defending, which is, sort of similar to tumbling. We've got using non-standards parts of a weapon and using special ammunition for attacking. We've got the ability to determine if a thing will be effective under information. And what do we have under the other one? We've got how susceptible the target will be to my skill, or knowing if the target is using the skill on me. I think the closest thing that we have here is our defensive abilities. And that is removing all effects from an attack. So at level 1, you would be able to do a tumble and reduce incoming damage. Maybe at level 2, you can stop yourself from breaking a limb or getting all scraped up.
It has to play into other physicals too. We can do the thing. We can tumble basically at the beginning. We can do the basic thing. There we go. Yes. Basic thing. At 2, I'm kind of liking the conversation one on this one, where we can do it, and then afterwards we start being able to tell if we'll. Because I guess These ones aren't so much work ones, are they? They're more real-time ones, the physical skills.
Yeah, you just do the thing.
Mm-hmm. So how useful is being able to tell if it's going to be successful
Necessary.
or not ahead of time? Like, I think that's kind of just the player can determine that by their situation themselves. Yeah.
And I mean, two is often a power dip because it is a big bonus as far as like
Doubling the
raw numbers
bonus.
go.
Yeah, the raw number doubles.
I do think being able to determine if you will need to use that skill is somewhat useful. Like, you'll know if you need to swim across a river, or you'll know if you can just wade across it. You'll know if you will need to tumble in order to not break a leg or something. You'll know if you will need to actually breach that door, or if you can just open it.
I feel like a lot of that is basic player knowledge anyway.
Yeah. We don't really have anything else. Okay, let's define our limits again. Let's define our bounds.
So what's a level 5 tumbler?
A level 5 tumbler is the ability to negate any ill effects from whatever causes you to need to tumble.
It still has to be within limit. Some reason to it. 100 floors is not tumbleable.
Yeah, and the DM says, no, you fucking die. Like,
but then is 20 floors tumbleable?
I would say
10?
no. They did.
How about 5?
How about 2?
At which point we're going from 1 to 5, we're going from like 1 floor to 2 floors?
Which is pretty significant. Like, if those are 12-foot floors, you're falling 24 feet. And you're able to just walk away from that rather than just having reduced damage.
Now, how do you generify it so that it works with other physical skills?
So for something like weightlifting, which would be a strength skill, you would do it, without hurting yourself. You wouldn't need to strain. Because you're a champion weightlifter, you know exactly how to lift the heavy thing. You're going to do it without hurting yourself, and you're going to do it well.
They still hurt themselves, and they still need to strain. They just lift more.
Sure, in specifically like competitions, but if you're, say, picking up a couch, for instance, you're going to know that, you want to lift with your knees, keep a nice, straight, firm core, be able to lift it without, pulling a muscle.
I think you should be able to do that at the basic knowledge of it. That's your form.
So then what other limit could we use for our bounding box for physical skills?
Who knew physical skills would be the one that gets us?
Yeah, you thought that would be like, you saved it for later because
do the thing or do the thing better. And the only way that I can think of to make it interesting would be to, like, since it is a feat that you need to accomplish, it is a thing that you need to do, you're already getting the +5 to your roll. That's already going to be like a huge boost. So the only way to then make it more valuable would be to reduce any negatives that might come from it. Sorry, Pseudo, I talked over you.
No worries. I was just thinking of an example again of like what we want to do, and maybe Reed is just kind of, we go back to that kind of knowing your limitations, maybe, you know, how well you can do something, if you'll be able to do it. Like, first thing is you can be able to, the second one is you have, you know, the ability to really understand, because anyone can, you know, weightlift, but when you get more experience, you know what you can and what you can't lift. You know, try and like, oh, I can try and lift this heavy thing, and you know that if you try that, you're probably just going to hurt yourself or something, right? So maybe that's more of like, you can have a better understanding of your chance of success, or, you know, a better understanding of what you can actually lift or not. First skill is like, yeah, you can lift it. The DM will say, yeah, you can lift it. And you go to lift it and you're like, yeah, you can't, it hurt. The second one's like, maybe, you know, it looks pretty heavy, kind of a gauge of like how much you can actually apply your strength, I guess. You kind of have an idea of limitations, I guess, or actually have an idea of how well those things will go.
I could see 5 being prevent injury from failures.
Yeah, 5 could just be one of those like Super Saiyan-esque, like you just go like, and even if it doesn't work out, you still save yourself from something, or you have that like push beyond.
I could see this. I could see this. In most of the physical skills, I can think of instances of this being the case. It's like even as bodybuilding, for example, let's say the goal was to build a certain muscle size in that one. There's so many ways to do it, and grabbing the heaviest weight and lifting it isn't actually usually the best way. And the more you know about it, the more ways there are to go about and do it in safe ways. In tumbling, you've just gotten so good that your muscle memory can snap back. So even if you fail the tumble roll, you can prevent major injury. You may not end up where you wanted to, but at least you didn't, you know, land on your arm funny and break it while you're doing it or something stupid.
I do like the idea of 5 being just go fucking Super Saiyan. You just surpass your own limits and do something you shouldn't be able to do. Especially for physical. Maybe 4 is removing all negative effects.
Maybe even 3. 3 is where you gain true proficiency.
But then what's the halfway step between, you know, what is probably going to be damage reduction on a tumble, or being able to
attempt to lift
do
without
basic
hurting
bodybuilding.
yourself.
Yeah.
When we're all stuck like this, it means when it comes out, it's going to be fucking great. However, it's also 6 p.m. now.
Let's just put in 5 as surpass your limits. And that's sort of our bounding box.
Question. We're not 100% sure, but it'll give us a reminder of kind of where we were at least. And then we can pick it up next week. I don't have anything else to talk about next week, so we can just keep working on this. Because the work that's been getting done on this is pretty amazing. We've been like Delta 4ing this shit. Huh?
I still love that the term Delta just fits so well for our system.
Yeah, and it's a term that doesn't get used in any other pen and papers. So we're unique and original and different and our own thing. Kind of everything we wanted already.
Yeah, we just gotta finish it.
This will be playable in 2022.
Oh, no doubt.
Next year we will be playing this on stream. And tonight, we will be playing GTFO on stream.
It's true.
We unfortunately checked it out last night without y'all.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for
was-
doing that because it was actually something that you missed. It was an experience.
The VOD is up on my channel. If
Oh,
you want
good.
to go check that out. I did stream it. So we do have our experience up there.
Yes. Go watch Rage's VOD because, wow, that game's cool.
Big agree. And we failed really hard the first time. And it was great.
Oh my god, yes. And then we found a thing that did a thing and made us all go, what? That's the only way I can explain that, but that's...
Without being spoilery.
Yeah. So go check out Rage LTD's stream. Absolutely. Go get yourself a bite to eat and a little snack and maybe a smoke and have a drink and come back all prepared, and we'll go ahead and do some more GTFO for you later.
Yeah, it will probably be
Late.
a couple hours.
We're gonna go eat dinner and do stuff like that and spend time with family and doggo, and I'm sure there's a walkie in your future as well, and I've gotta kick my feet up and relax a bit because I went for a walk and a jog this morning and now my legs are kind of tired. Yeah. I got exercise. That's amazing. That never happens. So, until next week, when we get to do this some more, or until tonight, when we get to splatter some brains with a sledgehammer, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
May all your shots be headshots.